Friends, welcome back to the Wall Street Skinny. I'm Jen,
I'm Kristen.
and we are two lifelong friends, former investment bankers, and teachers here to give you the skinny on how to land and thrive in the world's highest paying jobs. We ask the dumb questions here so you can go be smarter in real life. And today we're talking about the intersection of finance and fashion. And you might think like, oh, who cares about fashion or whatever? Guys, wrong. We get asked almost every single day, what do I wear to work at one of these jobs, at an investment bank, at a hedge fund, at an asset manager, et cetera, et cetera? And the answer is it depends. It's always changing. We struggled so much with figuring out what to wear to not only enhance our professional appearance, but to make ourselves feel comfortable and confident and not feel like we were out of place or maybe stepping on toes or committing some kind of fashion faux pas. So this episode is for both men and women, because
Mhm.
in recent years, specifically in the last few years for me, but Chris and I know in the last 18 months for you, we discovered a company that we wish we had known about when we were both working in finance. This is not a sponsored podcast. This is not an ad for that company. It's truly a clothing brand that we stumbled upon almost by accident, that we have found makes the kind of clothing that we wish we'd had when we were both working in investment banks. And so we're going to speak to the CEO today about just their overall philosophy, about how she actually started in a finance background and that ultimately led to a career in fashion. And there is so much good content here about pursuing your dreams, taking risks, and feeling comfortable in your own skin. So I'm really excited. But
Mhm.
before we get into it, Kristen, we just wrapped up an awesome New York City trip together. I just had my 40th birthday, and I know you have a big announcement for everyone. So I want you to kick it off.
Cool. Yeah. So we went to New York 2 weeks ago. Like actually, it was 1 week ago. It was a week ago,
Last
and we
week, yeah.
basically got to run around New York City with like a proper film crew, and it was so much fun. So there's some videos that are going to come out for that. So that was really cool. Jen, I mean, we were working with like an actual producer, but Jen did a lot of like the writing and directing, and it was just like so cool to like actually have someone proper versus like it's basically normally just like Jen and I on our iPhone. And I
Yeah.
mean, but that's cool. But no, the thing that we're really excited about. So I have missed teaching Excel and financial modeling. It is my absolute favorite thing to teach. So in honor of Jen's birthday, we are going to be doing a free live masterclass Tuesday, November 26th before the holidays, basically going through all the things that anyone who wants to work in finance on Wall Street needs to know related to Excel and how to be efficient, because it's one of these things where I don't think people realize just how big Excel culture is on Wall Street, or maybe you do,
Hmm.
but like a lot of people don't. And actually, and if you're in sales and trading, it's not as much of a thing. Like Jen was like, I'm here on my Mac. And so there's a lot of things that you can learn in terms of efficiency and all that. And actually, we were doing a dry run together just before we hopped on, and I was going through some of the stuff, and Jen's like, "Oh my god, this one thing just like changed my life. I had no idea." So, and then she's on a Mac too, guys. So yeah.
And I will say this, you know, it's one thing to learn shortcuts in a vacuum. It's another thing to use them while you're building a mock financial model. And so going through that process with you, Kristen, really helped hammer home both things. I think you learn best by doing, using those shortcuts in the applications that they're intended for. It made it all click for me. I mean, you're talking about hand positioning. Guys, Kristen is a whiz at this. So definitely sign up. Like you said, the course is geared towards PC users because let's be real, you're going to be using a PC on the job. But if you're a Mac user, you should definitely still sign up, because even if you won't be as fast in Excel when it ultimately comes from memorizing useless shortcuts that don't apply, going through the reps, walking through a financial model is invaluable.
Well, not only that, you can run Windows Excel on your Mac. Like the thing with Macs is it's not so much the Mac itself that's bad, it's Mac Excel. You can
Hmm.
run Windows Excel on your Mac. It requires a little bit of extra software, but I don't want people who are, potentially in college who know they have a private equity interview that they're going to want to interview for, where you are going to be going into the offices of some private equity firm and you are going to have to build a financial model, and it is going to be on Windows Excel. You are going to need to be getting the reps in on Windows Excel, and it's not like, shoot, now you need to go throw your Mac out the door. You just need to get the right software. So I
Yep.
wanted to add that point that like not all is lost if your parents just spent a fortune on a brand new amazing Mac for you. No, I mean, there's software that, especially with student discounts, you can get it. It's called Parallels, and then you would need to get Windows. But again, all is not lost if you're on a Mac. Jen and I are huge Mac lovers. I love my Mac. It's just that for Excel, Windows Excel is just like light years better. And I mean, again, I'm going to use this analogy. I use it all the time. If you know you're going to go live in Spain, you probably should be studying Spanish and not studying French. So same applies. If you're able to start getting the reps in on Windows Excel, do that. But again, all is not lost if you're on a Mac. So I just wanted to put that out there because I don't want people to feel like really down if they're like, oh, but I my beautiful Mac. No, it's fine. Just, yeah, get the right software.
And then lastly, we are finally launching our investment banking and private equities essential class for public purchase this coming Friday. So Black Friday, that is going to be open to the public. For those of you who are in the know, you know that we actually had a pre-sale after our first live masterclass at a discount. So people who participated in that have been getting each module as it rolls out. We may or may not be offering some kind of special discount at this live masterclass. So definitely sign up. And if you miss all of that, do not despair, because on Friday, the course is going to be rolling out to the public. So we're beyond excited about that. This has been a long time in coming. So you'll get to check out our new updated website with all the fun stuff, and everything's just rocking and rolling. We're so excited. And if we don't talk to you guys before the Thanksgiving holiday here in America, happy Thanksgiving, and wishing you and our families a safe, healthy holiday together. And Kristen, anything else before we bring Carrie on?
Yes. And one more thing, we're also, for those of you guys who've been following along, we have the separate industry podcast feed. We are so proud of that series. We're going to start airing it on the big podcast. So it's going to be like midweek. It's not going to be, we'll still have the normal Saturday episodes, but I just wanted to give a heads up that we'll be airing that. And there's just so much amazing stuff you can learn from that show. And then again, if I don't say so myself, from Jen explaining a lot of the trades or us going through some of the stuff. So again, it will start to air on the big podcast. We'll probably be dropping it a little bit, like maybe 2 a week. I don't know. We haven't figured it out exactly. And then it'll be back up to, so we'll have the 2 feeds. We'll have a dedicated feed for anybody who wants to just binge it on its own. And then we're going to be doing it on the main feed as well. So I just wanted to give that disclaimer, heads up, if you're like, oh, look, here's this like random thing that's now popping up. So yeah, keep your eye out for industry. It'll be fun.
Awesome. Okay, well, we're going to be bringing on our guest. It's Kerry O'Brien, the CEO of Commando, and I'm so excited for this conversation. I think you guys are going to get a ton out of it. So let's rock and roll.
So we are so excited to be doing a little bit of a different episode today, different yet similar in so many ways. We are joined by Kerry O'Brien, who is the CEO, the founder and chief designer of Commando, which I don't know, for like, this is like a heads up podcast, but I'm in my uniform right now, which is pretty much exclusively all I wear around my house. And it is a Commando outfit. And Commando is basically, it's funny, we designed this podcast to be what we wish we'd had when we were coming into the industry. And Commando, I've discovered, is like the clothing brand that I wish I'd been able to wear when I was starting out. So, Carrie, we're so excited to have you. I'd love it if you could tell our listeners a little bit about you, your background, and how you got into the world of fashion.
Sure. I grew up on a farm in Burlington, Vermont. So it was a long road getting to be a fashion designer and a member of the Council of Fashion Designers of America. I think of my life in like chapters. I think about growing up on a farm in Vermont with my 4 siblings, and then going off to college. I went to Bentley. And one of the things I did a lot in high school and in college, which was really formative for me, is I did a lot of internships, a lot of internships. When I was in high school, I interned for, do you guys remember Jog Bra, the original women that created a sports bra?
I don't.
Yeah, they were based in Williston, Vermont, and I worked in their office. It was 2 female entrepreneurs. Little did I know what that seed would do and plant a seed inside of me to be like an innovator in intimate apparel and clothing. And then when I went to Bentley University, I studied business communications, and I had this like interest. I thought I was going to be a reporter, and I was going to go into politics. So I interned for the Senate Majority Leader, George Mitchell. I interned for the press office for the late Ron Brown for the Democratic National Committee. And then my final year, I'm like, I want to be a reporter. I applied for internships at CNN and Nightline, and I got both. So I did both. So instead of choosing, during the day, I did my CNN thing, and then I worked in the evening at Nightline. It was incredible.
That's
So,
insane. Wait, because those days at CNN probably start really early too.
yeah.
I think of the news day as starting at like 3 a.m. What were your hours all told?
I was on the assignment desk, so I probably had to be there by 7. I got out around 2 or 3, and then you had to be at Nightline by 4, and then they wrap by midnight.
Oh, that's wild.
But why? I mean, why choose? Everyone's like, which one are you going to choose? I'm not choosing. Why would I choose? Like, what an amazing opportunity. So, I always think about like, when in doubt, check it out. I always say yes to opportunities because you never know how it's going to shape you in certain ways. So I graduated from college, decided to be in public relations. I didn't do reporting because then I found out how much money you make to be a reporter.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I've got to start making money. I just graduated from college. So not that PR is the most lucrative, but it was a great career track for me. I worked for Edelman Public Relations and I did their financial media division. I was a vice president at age 24. It was the youngest vice president in Edelman's history. That's what I was told. And it wasn't the youngest woman vice president. I was just the youngest vice president, which was really amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and then I went over to Weber Shandwick and then I quit my job the day after September 11th and decided it's time to start Commando.
So in your finance PR role, tell us a little bit about what kind of work you were actually doing and how closely tied to the financial services industry you were.
It's a niche that is incredible. It was so fulfilling having those years in public relations. We would mostly represent publicly traded companies in any industry. It wasn't necessarily financial services, although on occasion we would represent a financial services institution. And it was really to announce mergers and acquisitions, announce their earnings, and CEO positioning these CEOs as experts in the industry, which of course they are, and leaders. And that was a really tough moment for me to really shape my aesthetic and style for a professional woman. Like many times I was the only woman. I was usually the only woman in the room, the youngest person in the room, and a lot of times the tallest. It really set the tone. It was like, what is appropriate to wear to work? And I had this uniform that I had. And just because you have a style that you keep on going back to doesn't mean that you're like, it means you have a strong point of view of how you want to present yourself. And there's nothing wrong with pressing repeat. When I finally got promoted and I could afford to spend money on clothes, I graduated to a black techno Prada suit. I had a couple jackets, a couple pants, and a couple skirts, and always in black. And I wore them over and over and over. I changed the shirt, I changed the accessories, and of course, I changed the hosiery because I've always loved hosiery. And it gave it a completely different look each time. And it was professional and it was the go-to. So those moments I think fondly, like, I wish I had Commando back then.
Yeah.
I mean, so when I think about, I know I love watching what you guys wear when you post because it's like, you understand me. You get me. In this chapter of my life, our CEO collection and our button-down shirts. And Kristen, you're wearing ballet bodysuit. I'm wearing a ballet body suit. And so those are good days.
We were familiar with your brand well before we started this business, but we've talked about how when Jen and I literally first came together and started the Wall Street Skinny, we were going online. We were trying to coordinate outfits. Like all of our pictures from the first quote unquote photo shoot we did together, like we were matchy for everything. We don't do that anymore. But we wanted to match. And we were like, we really want like a white button down. And Jen's like, it has to be a bodysuit. And so it's wild that your brand is one of the only brands that makes a bodysuit for a button down. Like every single button down for a woman should be the bodysuit because otherwise it starts to come up and it doesn't fit as well. We were so obsessed with it. So it's our favorite photo. And it was so amazing because Jen put up this reel that ultimately went viral. It was one of our first like most viral reels. And it was Jen in that bodysuit. And like, oh my gosh, the number of people where it's like, send me the link to the bodysuit, because there is such a need for this bodysuit. Because again, like so many women, it's such a staple piece. And it's incredible. So
at Commando, we are problem solvers. Like you wake up in the morning, you have a problem to solve. What am I going to wear today? What am I going to wear that I'm going to look and feel beautiful in? And that's not going to slow me down because I have a feeling that your listeners, we're all really busy. You don't want your clothes to slow you down and what looks appropriate, what feels great on your body. And so think about the classic button down shirt. I always struggled with it because the fit, it was a woven, it didn't stretch. The fit was never quite right. The buttons would open up and pop. You had to iron it. Damn, it has to be pretty good for me to get an iron out and iron a white shirt.
Or God forbid, dry clean. Like,
oh
no,
my gosh.
thank you.
No. With the bodysuit, it's perfectly tucked. Although I will say we do offer a non-bodysuit version of it, which sells really well because some people just can't get their head around bodysuits, which is totally fine. Imagine opening up your closet and loving everything in it. Can you imagine that feeling?
No, I can't, because I still have stuff in it from high school. So I definitely cannot imagine what that's like.
Yeah.
But I want to touch on something that you said, because there is that question of what's appropriate and what's comfortable. When Kristen and I were first starting in the industry 20 years ago, there was this new era of like, things are opening up. You can wear things that you feel passionate about and are fashionable to you. But don't be too fashionable and don't push the limits too much. And I was like, what does this mean? Can you please spell this out in plain English? Is there a skirt length? Like, I needed someone to write out, like, how many inches above or below your knee does your hem need to be? Like, if the skirt's higher, then how high can the heel be? Are you supposed to wear clothes that are this tight, that tight, whatever? So I felt like, because I couldn't navigate all of that, I was in this no man's land of, well, I just don't want to piss anybody off. Right? Yeah. So I'm going to wear these like boxy pantsuits, or I did, like Victoria's Secret back in the day had bodysuits, but the bottom of the bodysuit was this mesh torture device that was like designed to basically cut off the circulation around mid-thigh. It was just absolutely miserable. I never felt comfortable. Even the question of hosiery. So like, you loved wearing hosiery. I didn't. And again, I was wearing like the Dwayne Reed nylons, and they would tear the second I left my apartment. I wouldn't want to bring a spare. And so then I got kind of like flack from the other women on the desk, like, oh, Jen doesn't wear stockings, like blah, blah, blah. I was like, I'm so sorry that you're seeing my, unshaven knee hairs, like, God forbid, right? Like, avert your eyes. So I never knew quite what to wear. And I think that's something that to this day, so many young women and men coming up through the industry don't know, because now we have the added complexity of the post-COVID relaxation of work dress codes. Lehman was business formal, so men had to wear ties. And then it was Morgan Stanley was like business casual, but make it formal, right? So you didn't have to have a tie, but like, again, it was always with respect to the men. The dress code was authored with respect to the men. It was never with respect to the women. There was no language about jackets. There was obviously no language about ties. And now it's like guys seem to wear some combo of like what they wear to play golf / hike. My husband wears pants that zip off at the knee to the office. Like it's truly become a free for all. And you want to be professional, you want to feel good, and you want to look good, because that impacts your performance and it impacts how you're perceived. But no one tells you what to wear. So you got to make it easy, right? Like, we got to dumb it down a little bit and make it easy. And I think you guys have done a really good job by being like, here's some staples that you will look good in, feel good in, and work to make you look professional. And also, I think it's so unique because, quite frankly, when you're first starting out, you haven't gotten that first bonus yet. We've talked about that signing bonus that basically goes to taxes and doesn't even pay for your first month's rent or whatever when you're all done with it. Like, the price point on these things now is astronomical. Your stuff you can get for under $300. Like, that's impossible to find these days. Sorry, end rant, but like, that's why this is what I wish we'd had. And like, our listeners, again, this is not a sponsored podcast. Like, this is truly just how Kristen and I feel.
We love this. Yeah.
We love this. And this is what we wish we'd had. How did you go about translating your experience of what you wore? And you said you started with intimates. How did that then translate all the way up the chain to what we're wearing in the office?
Well, thank you I agree with a lot of what you said about dressing for the office. And I just want to touch upon that a little bit, is that comfort is confidence. You cannot be confident if you're not comfortable. I don't care if it's just for the office, it's anywhere. If you go to a beautiful party or a celebration, anything in your life, if you're wearing something that's bothering you, you can't be your authentic badass self. You just can't. I feel that way. And I know many people know exactly what I'm talking about. I'll tell you, I started Commando because I hated my top drawer. I talked to you. I mean, it's just true. I mean, I talked to you about how I did quit my job the day after September 11th. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and start Commando. I've got this amazing idea. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I knew I had to do something different. Again, talking about chapters in life. Sometimes you have to turn the page yourself and say, it's time for me to write the next one. And that's what I decided to do. So speaking of writing, I decided I was going to write a book. And so don't be too impressed. Okay. I went to write a book. It was called Hit the Road Jack, a grown girl's guide to breaking up. Because I was in New York City, all my friends were dating, and they were getting together, breaking up, and it was ridiculous. So this is when like girl books, girl power books were really in. And it was like, so I wrote this and I had an inspirational song list you could listen to. What's the name? Hit the Road Jack.
Okay, I like the idea of the playlist.
It's kind of fun. You got to get, listen to the music to cheer yourself up and empower you. Well, it was a great idea. And I got the best rejection letters. Rejection letter after rejection letter after rejection letter. And what they said was, write about what you know. We love your idea, but basically, who the hell do you think you are writing a book? You're not a doctor. You don't even talk about your own breakup. And so I'm like, what do I know about? I'm not going to talk about financial public relations, but I was kind of like an unpaid stylist for my friends. And we would talk about what you're going to wear from a date to the office, to a wedding, to a funeral, all of that we talk about. But there was one thing that I noticed over and over again. We would talk about everything they would wear, but then they show up and they'd wear the most horrific underwear underneath it. Like their bras didn't fit them and their underwear, you could see their pain lines. It's like they forgot to look behind in the mirror. It was just awful. And I'm like, these are very smart, conscientious women. Why is it that they all have this problem? The problem is, in my opinion, there were 3 different types of underwear in the market when I started. It was the sexy kind. It was the male's view of sexy. It was the control kind, which was basically, in order to be beautiful, you have to be thinner and uncomfortable. And then there was the comfortable ones. And those were the ugly granny panties. Because if she wants comfort, this was the thinking, she doesn't care what she looks like. Comfort is not complacent. You're not complacent when you want comfort. Now we wouldn't even think about wearing something that's not comfortable. I wouldn't, but I took that whole idea and said, I want it all. I want it to be comfortable. I don't want things pinching my body. I want to reinvent the underwear industry. And that's what I did. Commando's going to be 20 years old next year. And it took the industry by storm. And so we took this kind of idea of fabric first, my design ethos, which I had no design background, which was a huge advantage for me because I had no idea what I couldn't do.
Yeah.
Like that I had raw cut underwear, which is like laser cut. That means there's no, you know what I'm talking about. It's a raw cut. The bottom
for our listeners who don't, though, can you explain it? Because I think that this isn't, to be honest, I didn't know that term until you were explaining it to us. I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's what that is.
So they call it raw cut, clean cut, laser cut. It's all the same thing of saying that this fabric is simply cut and there's no elastic or trim on it. So it's left in its raw state. And that means you have to have a specific type of, there's a lot of technology that goes behind that. And you have to cut it a certain way and you have to have the right kind of construction for your fabric in order for it to not unravel
that makes sense.
Or, like fall off your body. We kind of, everybody's like, what do you mean you're going to leave it unfinished? You can't do that. I'm like, I think we can, because I knew there's so much technology transfer happening everywhere in the industry, but why isn't there technology transfer happening from all the technology that's happening in athletic fabrics into intimate apparel?
Yeah.
It wasn't, because she's supposed to look pretty in her intimate apparel, right? Or she just wants cotton. No, she wants performance. That's what she wants. And so being fabric first and having our very strict design ethos, which is, I ask myself, how does it feel? Number 2, how does it fit? And only then do I care about what it looks like. Because if it looks amazing and it doesn't fit well or feel great, it's not Commando. It's not going to pass the Carrie test.
And you're never going to wear it.
Right.
You're not going to wear it.
That's the thing, 100%. Like you can buy the most expensive. I literally have a pair of Jimmy Choo shoes that my husband bought because he was like trying to be nice. And I've literally never worn them because they're not comfortable and I'm never going to wear them. They're gorgeous. And they sit on my shelf because I'm never going to wear them.
Yeah.
And so then how did you go from designing at the intimate level to then designing, I don't even know what to call it, ready to wear or clothes that you wear on the rest of your body?
It's interesting. This is an important lesson that I hope I can share with your listeners is, so I started with underwear and people were like, well, you're the raw cut underwear person. Okay. I guess that's what I am now. Okay. I'm a designer and I'm an inventor and I'm an entrepreneur. And all of a sudden, like people were trying to tell me what my business was. Oh, what do you mean you're going to do a top? You can't do ready to wear tops because you're an intimate apparel company. And I'm like, no, we are Commando. We believe that she should wear only what she loves, and we're going to provide that for her. And now for him, by the way. And so that was like my journey, is always pushing the envelope. I find fabrics that I love and I make as many things as possible out of them because we anoint fabrics at Commando. We fall in love with them. We understand what they can do. Like that bodysuit that you both love and I love is the original intimate apparel fabric that I used 20 years ago to make the underwear.
That's awesome.
I always knew that bodysuit was going to be a hit. And years I would take it to market and I'd show the department stores and they're like, we can't buy that from you. You're an intimate apparel company. But I'm like, but it's a bodysuit. It has a snap gusset. And so I kind of snuck in that way. But then I was like, we're just going to produce it and she will come. She will come.
Yeah.
Yeah, she gets it.
Oh yeah. No, she's here. She gets it. She loves it. And she can't be bothered to wear anything else.
Yeah.
Well, I will say something. So it was funny. Jen and I have talked about how we were just at the Case Summit and they had Serena Williams. And one of the things that she was talking about is just like how important your presentation of yourself is and dressing well. And we've already talked about how important comfort is. And it's funny. It's actually like this all ties. Jen was looking on LinkedIn and she's like, oh my gosh, like Case caught us where we had like come out in the morning and Jen was in, she called it her pajamas. It actually looks great. You do not look like you're in pajamas. It looks like it's like a very nice
the sweater
sweater
I wore on the plane, but like 2 days later.
But the point is that, you know, it is important as we're talking about, like, we're in this, again, like worlds where you never know where someone's going to snap a picture of you and it's going to be up somewhere, or where also just like the way you present yourself, people take notice. And having comfortable clothes you can throw on in a pinch is obviously so important, but also ties into, you have your own Serena Williams story, which I would love if you could share, because you told us this and it was like, it's the coolest thing.
You know, Commando has had so many celebrity moments. I mean, there was just an article written on Forbes magazine about how Commando's, you know, our role in New York Fashion Week and how we're there probably more than any other designer. There's been an article saying that Commando has walked probably as many red carpets as any designer. And those are all great moments. But then you have that Serena Williams moment, which is she was on the cover of Vanity Fair. She was pregnant. And she was being shot by a very famous photographer. And she decided to show up with her own Commando underwear and said she wanted to wear that for the photo shoot. Now, if you can't tell, women empowerment is very important to me. Confidence, giving women the tools to feel confident is really important to me. So imagine yourself. She shows up and says, I'm going to be photographed in this very famous, vulnerable moment. And I choose Commando out of my top drawer. She wasn't styled that way. That's what the story told to me. And that is one of my proudest moments in Commando history, because it's just everything that we talk about every day translated in that cover.
Oh, I absolutely love that. I have a question for you. So like in the intimates world, there have been many big names that you talked about, shapewear kind of being the other moment that was happening concurrently. I do think that shapewear initially emerged with this girl power message, but has that dark undertone of, well, it's girl power. We're empowering you to fit into everybody else's version of what's attractive. I'm curious, how do you navigate kind of size inclusivity within your brand? Because I noticed that a lot of your clothes are one size fits all. And I think that's something that struck me and stood out to me about Commando, whereas most other clothing brands are not. And sizing is something that I think is really, really important. It was important to me, certainly on my journey with like all of my disordered eating habits, where it's like, oh, I buy this jeans brand because I'm a size I like in them, regardless of how like they actually look on me. I was like, well, I like the number on the tag. That is an insane reason to buy a pair of pants. Absolutely insane. And I fully acknowledge that. What are even just the mechanics of making clothes that's one size that looks great on everybody? How much science is involved and why was that important to you?
Well, I would say that the biggest program that we have is one size is the ballet body program. It's something that I'm wearing right now. Kristen's wearing it. It's a tops program where it's mostly bodysuits where it's made from a micro denier knit. So there's a lot of technology that goes behind this. And yes, it does fit. One size fits most, probably all. Well, the difference is the more stretch, the more sheer it's going to be, which for some people is good. Some people like that, some people don't. I mean, some people think that this is, they have to decide what look they're going for. So, but we don't do something for the sake of one size. We do it because we think that's the best use of how we're fitting the garment. And the other thing that, which is unusual for us for our suiting, which you guys have worn many, many, many times, it's our CEO suiting, which I love the name of it because it's also known as chic, easy outfits. Okay. Hello. Is that instead of doing a complete size run, we do extra small through extra large. So it makes it simpler. And the reason why we're able to do this because I really like Lycra. I like things that stretch. And she does too. She wants things that are going to stretch and work with her instead of against her. That's just the Commando way for us. That's the way we design. And so instead of having, 0 to 16, we have blended sizes.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because Jen also, I know you had talked about how you initially, I think, discovered Commando when you were pregnant. And that's something that I don't hear people talk that much about. Just it is, and this has an explicit rating, so we can say this, like it is a huge mindfuck being pregnant, kind of regardless of what your experience is. I've shared this before. I had to almost go through, I didn't have a formal eating disorder, but like basically eating disorder recovery type of like a mental state to get pregnant in the first place, and then gained quote unquote over the recommended range. And it's this crazy thing of watching your body change so significantly. And again, whether it's because of pregnancy, because of an illness, because of something terrible happened, again, it's like a crazy thing watching your body change. So having clothes that you can wear and still feel good about yourself is really important. And like for me, I mean, that's where people, they will buy the sort of stretchy pants, but having clothes that will stretch with you and expand with you. And you don't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to go buy the maternity clothes, which by the way, quote unquote maternity clothes always are kind of crap and like they're not flattering. So being able to wear something like Commando, I mean, I wish I knew about it when I was pregnant because I do think I had just very low self-confidence when I was pregnant for the best thing ever. But it's a really hard process that, again, people don't talk about. And Jen, obviously, she shared you didn't gain that much weight when you were pregnant, but then when you're nursing, when like everyone else is like, oh, you lose so much weight when you're nursing, and it's like
everyone's like, the weight just melts right off your body. I was like, I've gained double the amount of weight that I gained while I was pregnant, while I was nursing. And that's when I told you the story on the pre-call. I was going to a friend's bachelorette party and I was like, I need to buy like something that's not maternity clothes or maternity pants. And I found a pair of Commando faux leather leggings, and everyone was like, oh my God, you look awesome, and I had like the confidence to wear that out at a bachelorette party when I was secretly feeling like an exhausted whale.
What you're explaining right now in the love for Commando is a byproduct of the first thing we do, which is our absolute love for fabrics. Our fabrics are luxury technical fabrics. Those microfibers that you're talking about, that shirt and that neoprene suiting, the CEO suiting, are Italian, come from the world's most amazing mills. Those are from Italy. Our butter, I don't know if you're familiar with our butter. It's our number one fabrication in terms of search for Commando. And it's an Austrian modal. It's so tactile. It feels so soft and so versatile, and it's raw cuttable too. That is what allows this clothing line to be so versatile and meets her where she is right now. Remember, I told you about chapters. I have 3 children. I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to be pregnant, postpartum, breastfeeding twins. I mean, I've had, I get you. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And there's nothing worse than feeling uncomfortable, especially when your body is changing so much and that pressure on your stomach. By the way, we do have a maternity line though now.
Yeah,
they're probably
that
much
wasn't
nicer.
around back in my day. I wish
for
I
those
had that.
leggings, you have to give her the building blocks when she's pregnant. We have some for leggings because it's such a go-to item for her. Yeah.
Well, I will say also, you talk about people's bodies changing, and these are all very noble, you're talking about pregnancy and stuff like that. But my weight fluctuated so much, not just like over the years when I was working in finance, but like intra-week, because it would be like, okay, you've got the big night out with the client, and then you've got like the hangover over breakfast the next morning. And like, I remember being in these like binding suits and feeling like, oh my God, I am so miserable right now. But so even just feeling uncomfortable in my work clothes because of the amount of entertaining that was required for my job, right? It was like I needed maternity clothes at that time, but I definitely needed something that would have stretched with me, even though it was for far less noble reason than. So I have a question though, because you're talking about all these high quality fabrics, and again, I'm thinking of Kristen. Kristen has done our self-paced course recently, and I'm thinking about all the balance sheets that she's walking everybody through and thinking about all these line items. How do you keep your clothes at an affordable price point when you're using these high quality fabrics? Quite frankly, I mean, I just returned $1,900 worth of clothes to another clothing brand I will not name, but I purchased their clothes online, had never gotten to try them on in a store, and got them. And it was like itchy. I mean, it truly felt like a bad Halloween costume. And it was like 3 outfits for $1,900. So there are way more expensive price points out there that are not comfortable, that are not high quality fabric. How do you keep from basically just like gouging your customers? Like what's the business model?
Well, I would say that a lot of our business is what we call basics driven business. So we're not taking an enormous amount of risk on fashion that needs to get immediately marked down, and you have to account for it in your reserves. Since I started Commando, this is what I wanted. I wanted a replenishable business model. She sells one, or the department stores sell one, they order another one. Black thongs are never going to go out of style, and white button-down shirts are not going to go out of style. Sure, we may change the collar every once in a while, but it's classic. And our CEO suiting is the same thing. It's very traditional, it's very comfortable, and we have what we call our class of classics. And so if you think about, the building blocks of your wardrobe, like, what is your ideal wardrobe? You have your underwear that you absolutely love. That's not going out of style. And then you have to get the suit, whether it's a single breasted or double breasted or both. You decide what your trousers are, interchangeable button down shirts underneath, and then different hosiery. That, and of course, ballet body. Hello. That is for building blocks. But think about those. Yes, I'm wearing a fashion color of this.
I love that color, by the way. Green.
I love it.
Jen is such a
last week. It just dropped this green color. It's just absolutely amazing. But yeah, sure. But we'll sell through this. We'll sell through it, and then we'll go on. But what you're wearing, Kristen, will always be a basic, and it'll be a full price business for us. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
It's better for the environment too. It just is. When you have clothing that is timeless, seasonless, and also because the fabrics are so high quality, they will last a long time. And longevity of an item is very important. And how many times you wear it. Think about how many times you have worn that button-down bodysuit.
Oh, I know. Well, and again, thank God it's wash and wear, or else I would have put my dry cleaners kids through college.
Yeah, that's important to Commando too, for her, so she can wash and wear it. Because
she does not like the dry cleaner.
No. But one of the things I want to talk to you about is, and I'm impressed. I don't think my kids are impressed by this, but at Commando, we own 2 different patents on our clothing lines. And it's really difficult to get a patent on a clothing line. There has to be some sort of we decided to get what's called utility patents, which would prove that it actually does something for you. The first thing was our slip line. Do you guys own slips?
I do. I own one of your slips.
You need to.
It's the only slip I own, by the way.
If you want your clothes to drape better, it's not just because it's a sheer dress and you don't want us to see through it, because now some people do want you to see through to their bra and underwear under the sheer dress.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the style. It's if you want your clothes to last longer, you want everything to drape better, and it's just more comfortable, you have a slip. But thinking about like, where am I going with the Commando line? I just had underwear and camis, and someone said, you should do a slip. And I'm like, that's like a granny thing. Like, who does it? But then we have our raw cut lines of it, and then we put weights in the bottom of the slips.
Oh,
notice you have weights.
I gotta go get this. I won't get it right now, but I gotta go get it and check it out. I didn't notice the weights.
That keeps it down. So talk about let's talk about an outsider's perspective. And I'm like, well, if it doesn't, because everyone's reaching underneath and straightening their slip. I'm like, well, it's pretty practical. Why don't I just put some weights in there?
Genius.
And so it was just like a layman's way of solving a problem. You go to the hardware store, you get some weights. And also the thing about slips is it really does cut down on your dry cleaning bills. And if you can't tell from how I design my line, dry cleaners are not a part of my daily routine.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that we have a patent on is our hosiery. I used to wear hosiery when I worked on Wall Street and in public relations, but it's not saying that I loved it. I wore it because I thought it was the appropriate thing to do, which it was. It was the safe, appropriate thing to do. And I loved my opaques because they would run less than the shears. But after I moved back into our apartment in Tribeca after September 11th, the first thing I did after cleaning out the refrigerator is I threw away all the hosiery. And I said, I'm never wearing you again. And fast forward years later, I'm at Saks Fifth Avenue. I'm an underwear designer, and they asked me to appear a public appearance at their flagship on Fifth Avenue. And I'm so excited. I've got my slip, I've got my crochet dress, I'm wearing my Commando underwear underneath it, and I want to wear a pair of nude fishnets. I bought the most expensive kind you can possibly buy, and it just did nothing but dig into me. And you know what? And you know what happened? I wasn't thinking about, I made it. I'm at Saks Fifth Avenue. I'm a fashion designer. All I could think about was that rubber band around my waist. And I'm like, I'm going to commandotize you. So we took that Italian microfiber, which your shirt is made out of, and that underwear is made out of, and I made a waistband out of it. So it was a raw cut waistband. So it just gently hugged you and didn't dig into you. Again, comfort. No one was thinking about comfort in the hosiery space, right?
Yeah. I don't know what people were thinking about in the hosiery space, because every pair of pantyhose I ever wore was just a torture device. That's amazing.
You need to, we're going to have to get you some Commando.
I don't know. I'm so traumatized, but I do wear so it's funny. I do have the slip because I remember a casual comment that someone made to me. And she was like, oh, you're not one of those women who walks around the grocery store without a slip on under her dress, are you? And I was like, no, God forbid, no. It's I ran out and bought a slip.
Oh my God.
I've had it ever since.
Do you know how many women wear our slips as dresses?
Oh, is that right?
Interesting.
Oh, that would be quite a cute little dress. That's
I was gonna say that's like the in Friends where Rachel's like wearing the lingerie and then she's dating the Joshua dude and like the parents come in. She's like, yeah, I work at Ralph Lauren. Like this is an outfit. She's like, oh my God. Yeah.
I was thinking it's more like the Sex and the City naked dress is how I think of that slip. Like the one that Carrie wore on the date with Big.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's so funny.
I remember I was in town for Fashion Week in New York, and I was at Raoul's, which is one of my favorite places to go for steak frites. And I'm waiting for a table, and I look over, and I said, that woman is wearing my slip as a dress. So I went up to her, and I said, oh my God, I love your dress. Can you tell me who makes it? She goes, I'm like, oh, I'm just kidding. I know it's Commando, and I know it's a slip, and it looks amazing on you. And she's like, oh my God, I love the way I feel in this. Why do I have to hide it? Why can't I wear it as a dress? And I was just so like, cute. It was just amazing. That was many years ago. That was the first time I had ever seen it. And I've seen it many times since.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
Cool. I'm literally
so
like, as soon as this ends, I'm looking.
And so you mentioned breaking into menswear. I'm really curious about that because I know you said you started with men's underwear, but I will say from our male listener community, there is a ton of confusion. I think men are going through the same like crisis of identity of what they're supposed to wear for work that I went through 20 years ago right now in the hey, there's no guidance. Everyone says business casual or something or golf fancy, whatever. Like, what does that mean? So there's a huge opportunity for you there.
Yeah. I mean, we take a conservative approach to a lot of things in terms of product rollout. We'll start small and build out from it. I was extremely patient with men's. We launched it very softly 3 years ago. We tested it on our website. It just hit the stores in the last couple months. Last week, Men's Journal reviewed our underwear and called it the best underwear for men to buy right now. And basically said, the two reporters said they're throwing away all their boxer briefs and they're only going to wear Commando now. I mean, it was incredible. It was incredible. Amazing. So, I mean, so he gets it, which is exciting to me because there's so many things that I test everything in the Commando line. It's called the Carrie test. Everything has to pass the Carrie test in order to be in Commando. But then there's the men's line. I'm like, So if that's why we took so much longer to make sure we kind of
Did you drag your poor husband?
I know. I was going to ask. Yeah.
I did drag him into part of it. And that was an interesting, that could be a whole nother series. Okay. Working with your husband, and especially when you're like designing underwear and then like you're supposed to hear what he has to say and take it, obviously
very seriously.
But
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Does your husband work with you, or just for the underwear part? He was like the
No.
test person.
He's an
No.
investment banker, right?
Yes, we both lived in New York City. I was the financial PR guru. He was in investment banking. He was at DLJ and Credit Suisse and Solomon Brothers. I started my company. It just took off. We moved to Vermont. We thought we might go back to New York and he might go back to Wall Street, but then I was like, or we can just kind of do this together and see how it
So
goes.
that's amazing. Oh, so you
I
guys
never
do work
planned
together
it.
then?
Yes. I never planned it. I know it wasn't like, oh, let's start a business together. My idea it just took off. It was the momentum behind these
amazing.
ideas just was so intense that I was like, oh my God, I think I might be able to make this work. I can't, and it was scalable, and so we've got a nice life here in Vermont.
You are such an inspiration. This is exactly, we always joke that like our husband's like dream is to retire and come join us on the Wall Street Skinny. And we're like, they might not have that dream, but I have that dream for them.
Well, my husband loves what you guys are doing. I mean,
that's
he wishes there was something like that when he was back in Wall Street.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's hilarious. I have another question for you. So you talked about that kind of like girl boss energy.
Yeah.
That was very present when you were first leaving PR and you were starting out on your own. I think that there's been a reframing of that girl boss narrative now as almost like a negative. I was listening to a podcast the other day. It was, do you know who Stassi Schroeder is?
Yes. She's a
so
big Commando fan.
So it was Stassi, whom we love, and Not Skinny But Not Fat, which is a podcast that Kristen turned me on to. And I guess Stassi just wrote another book of hers, and they were talking about, the girl boss movement. And they were kind of talking about it in like a cringe. Like there's nothing worse than that, early 2000s girl boss zeitgeist. I'm curious what your take on it is as a female CEO who believes in women empowerment. What do you see being the next evolution of that energy?
Well, I can just tell you what my experience has been. I had an enormous amount of responsibility at a young age in New York. I did. I mean, think about it. I was 24. I was a vice president. By 28, I was working for the world's largest PR agency, and I was running their financial media division. I had people working for me that were twice my age.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was fine. I was a really good PR person, but was I a great manager at 24, 28? Probably not. I mean, sure, the people that worked for me, chances are they got paid the most amount of money. Chances are they get fired faster too. Okay. But now I think about it, and this is in our brand book, it takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable. Okay. And it's, and you have to be brave and curious at the same exact time and be comfortable in that zone and know that you actually probably don't know the real answer. I mean, think about it. I'm in the clothing business. Do I think this color is going to be the color of the season? Well, it looks fabulous.
I hope so, because I love that color.
But there is no right answer. You don't know. And there's so many different ways you can pursue something, and you don't have to be a hard ass in order to get what you want. And I have so much more life experience. I'm a mother. I've been married for many years, 25 years. I had those experiences. And, I knew growing up that I could do anything. That was a gift that my parents gave me. My father and mother had 4 daughters and a son, and told all of the daughters, you can do anything you want to. You can do anything. And I truly believed it. And he was right.
Wait, what did they tell the son?
I know.
You suck, but those 4, they can be anything they want.
Yeah. And he also said, don't ever be reliant on another person. And don't be reliant on a man in order to be independent. And that's just something that I chose to do. But those were great words of advice. But you don't need to be mean to be in charge. I guess that's what I have to say to you.
I love that. I love that leadership through vulnerability and not always having the right answer. And we've talked about this on our other podcast recently. We have a companion podcast to the HBO show Industry. And, they do a pretty damning assessment of middle managers in that show. And like, I was probably like the world's shittiest middle manager, right? Like I was a, VP going on managing director with the competence of like a summer intern, but only knew how to model the behavior that I'd seen. So it was either like go figure out and forge an independent way to be the change you wish to see in the world, or do what you see everyone else doing and being successful. And I definitely chose the latter. And in hindsight, it's like, wow, I wish I'd had a voice that I could listen to saying like, it's okay to not know. It's okay to ask questions. And I think that that's been one of the most powerful lessons that we've learned in this whole operation here.
Absolutely. And I also feel like people like to help other people. I think it's innate in us to ask for help. You have to have the courage and the strength to ask for help. I get asked, what is the advice you would give to entrepreneurs? Or I would give this advice to anybody. Ask for help. If you don't know the answer, just ask. It's okay. Like when I used to do mergers and acquisitions, this is what I used to say. We'd be at the lawyer's office all weekend long, 6 a.m. We're going to be on Squawk Box. We're giving exclusive to the Wall Street Journal so they can run it first and we get our points in. I sit down with the two CEOs and says, okay, gentlemen, why are you merging? It's the most difficult question for them to answer. It's the simplest question. And I know why they're merging. I wrote the press release. Okay? But I just like those types of obvious questions. Like I started and I asked, why does there need to be elastic in underwear? I was not afraid to ask that simple question. And it led into what Commando is today.
I love that. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of what Jen and I are doing, only in the sense that we don't care if we look like idiots. So we ask all the dumb questions on our podcast. Like we'll get experts on. We're like, we have no idea what this means. Just explain it to us. And so many people that are in the industry who are experts or super senior, their greatest fear is being exposed as like not knowing. And we're basically like, our whole brand is asking questions because most people like don't know and just trying to learn it ourselves. And like, by the way, the number of people that will reach out who are senior and are like, oh my God, that episode was great. I didn't know how a SPAC worked, or I didn't know what a PE secondary was. Like I hear this all the time, but like, again, asking questions and being curious and being like, this is how things were done. Why is it done that way? There's so many opportunities there because a lot of times it's like, it's done that way because that's how it's been done before. And no one thought to do it any different way or whatever.
Well, and I think that's, that speaks to kind of what we were originally talking about, which is why were people dressing this way in the industry, right? It's women started dressing a certain way in the industry because the only models for how they dress the industry were men. And then there was this attempt to forge this female voice, but there was no one to come out and say like, this is explicitly okay or whatever, because we weren't all, again, no one was comfortable enough to be like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, is this okay? Like, can I wear this? Right? Because if you ask that question, then clearly you're not one of us. And it's that, like you said, having that outsider's perspective of I'm not a deep industry practitioner. Why do we have to put elastics in underwear? Hey, I'm showing up on a trading floor. Why do we have to wear this suit jacket? Is there something else I could wear? Do I have to wear one at all? Like these are very basic questions that now people are trying to ask and they don't want to feel stupid. And it's like, it's a great question to ask.
It's something that I hear over and over again. Like I remember Ed and I were having dinner at a bar we like to eat dinner at a bar when we go to a restaurant. We sit, we talk to different people along the way.
I like that too.
Rebecca, our old stomping ground. And there's this badass woman. She's just typing away. She has martini going. And I can tell she's wearing of course I can tell she's wearing a Commando bodysuit. Okay. Yeah. And she's just like, and I tell her who I am. She's like, you need to come in and do a seminar. These women don't know what to wear. It's like they don't understand what to wear.
Yes.
And they just don't know where the lines are. And of course, when COVID happened, that threw another complication into the thinking. This is why I created the suiting collection too. My design department wanted to kill me because it's in the middle of COVID. We're in Vermont. No one was allowed to leave their house in Vermont. Vermont was extremely strict. Okay. And so I was like, okay, I'm loving our neoprene leggings. I'm wearing them all the time. I want to make a suiting collection out of this. And they're like, no one's suiting collection. No one's going to the office. No one's going to want this. I'm like, yes, she is going to want it. So it was in the middle of COVID that we developed this idea because I knew she wanted comfort. She was used to the feeling of comfort at home, but she wanted to look better dressed. She wanted to be snappy. She wanted to be ready to jump on an airplane and go wherever she wanted to. And she could take her blazer. She could
or even on a Zoom call.
Yeah. And it's there for her as her whatever, wherever she wants to wear it. And it's been good. She's been understanding it. That neoprene collection for our suiting has just been incredible.
I have to say, I have the black blazer and I love it. And it's funny because I do think that, there was obviously, Jen, when you were business formal, I mean, I I almost liked that type of, like having guidelines. Cause as we were talking about, like you kind of knew what you're supposed to wear. Like I need to wear a blazer. Like I've heard people sometimes talk about like, whatever, go into private school, you have to wear a uniform. It just takes one less thing out. So like
I love a uniform.
for me, wearing a blazer, whenever I would go and do a class and have to stand in front of a room full of people, I actually like got a lot of confidence by wearing a blazer and like feeling like I looked professional. What you wear has such an impact on how you see yourself, how you project confidence. We talked about the comfort aspect, but again, looking good, looking in your head, like how you think professional should look. I do think you then are able to portray this confidence. And so anyway, I am obsessed with that blazer. I just have to say, like,
I'm glad you like it. I love it too. And yeah, I agree with you. I think that this whole idea of confidence, and I don't usually give styling advice because I actually believe that I feel like the Commando items are so versatile. She can decide what her style is because there are no rules on how you should wear something. But when you are going to the office, you wonder the whole lack of rules, like, where do I fit into this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where do I
it
fit
makes it
into
harder.
this? For me personally, I felt when I was a young professional or any professional, even now, I don't need the clothing to be the highlight of who I am. The
Ooh, I
clothing
like
has
that.
to work alongside of me and enhance the person that I am. And if the
Love that.
clothing is a distraction, either you are feeling uncomfortable or you're like, oh God, I shouldn't have worn this today.
Yep.
Or these people are saying she shouldn't have worn that today, which is shaming for women. Okay. I'm sorry. I feel bad about that, but it can happen sometimes. It's like it should enhance. So what you're wearing should enhance who you are and not interfere at all. So that's why I wore the hosiery every day. I just wore it. And, I wore the hosiery. I wore my suit. I wore my Prada suit. And I did look stylish, actually. I had my uniform and it looked great.
I love that.
I love that. Well, any parting words of wisdom for our listeners?
Well, I guess I really like to talk about women and entrepreneurship and about chapters in life. And I really just feel like there's always another chapter that's ahead of you. And I feel like if you think about all the different journeys and how they have added up to where I am today and my perspective on designing clothing, being a mother, being a wife, being a citizen of the world, these are all cumulative and you shouldn't be afraid of them. You don't want to hold on to something too long because you're afraid to try something new. I mean, who's to say if Commando is my last chapter? Who knows what my next chapter is going to be? I always tell our kids, when you have an opportunity, you pursue it and you figure out what life has in store for you.
I love that. I think that that's so empowering, the same way you said that your clothes shouldn't be wearing you, kind of. I think it's also that your career doesn't wear you, right?
Yes.
That you're not defined by this role or what you were 10 years ago or whatever it is. I absolutely love that. I think that's very, very empowering.
Do you know what one of my biggest fears was when I quit my job and I didn't have I was afraid that I would go to a party in New York and people would say, what do you do? And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to say? Then I realized, do you know what I do? I do anything I want to. That's my answer.
That's such a good answer.
Like, what do you do all day? I go, anything I want to, really. And they're like, wow, I wish I had that. Now, I wish I don't have that. I can't answer that the same way now. But at that point in time, the fact that was that even weighed on my mind is crazy.
Yep.
I had a similar experience when I was leaving investment banking. I remember I had like an offer to stay in finance, a couple of offers, and then I wanted to go teach. And the just reaction people would give me when I said I wanted to go teach was sort of like, oh, it was like this, like, well, that's not, you're not going to Blackstone, you're not going to KKR, you're doing that. Like, it was this like looked down upon thing. And it was so the best move for me. And I'm so happy I did it. But there definitely was a little bit of this like, oh shit, people are going to think less of me because I'm making this move to what seems like a less prestigious career. And again, thank God I did it. It gave me, again, so much confidence. I met my husband, like, who I now have 3 beautiful children with. Like, it was definitely the right move at the time. And obviously starting this business with Jen, right move at the time. But like, it's so true that, you sometimes have to do what's right for you and not give a FUCK about what other people are going to think about it. And
I mean, think about this. I've said, I'm going to start an underwear company. I'm going to make the most comfortable underwear in the world. My parents, yes, encouraging, but also realistic.
Yeah.
Like, Really? I mean, I went from a serious, well-paid job, prestigious job to I'm going to design thongs now. I do more than that, obviously now, and we do suiting, and I'm a member of the Council of Fashion Designers of America. But I mean, it's a little crazy. I mean, it's a little, it's like it's a leap. It's a leap.
I love
Well,
that.
I think though, there is something to be said for having had that traditional career first before jumping out on your own, and I do think that we are, it sounds like contemporaries, right? Like we're about the same age. And I think that the criticism of the millennials is that like, oh, you can go be anything you want to be or whatever, and that we weren't given a great anchor. But I actually think it was, you can do anything you want to do and be anything you want to be as long as you work your ass off, right? I think that was the second part of the sentence that a lot of people didn't hear, right? And you worked your ass off in that traditional career to afford you the flexibility to then go take those risks. It wasn't like you were like, oh, mom and dad, can you lend me, $1 million so I can go design thongs? It was, I have been a badass corporate executive. I now want to go try this thing. And if I fail, I fail. But like, that gave you the freedom to go do that. Whereas if you tried doing that right after your cow didn't win the 4-H competition, it might've been a little tough.
That's the best. Yeah, it was foundational. My years working for someone else, learning from my clients, my colleagues, and the people around me was so great. And the best lessons came from the failures.
Yeah.
The failures. Yeah. The failures are the ones that you're like, you know what? You are going to fail. That's what people don't understand. That's another thing, that just know you're going to fail. Accept it, embrace it. And I expect it, because we like to be cutting edge at Commando. We like to go up against the boundaries, and
the raw cutting edge.
Yeah, we have to cross them sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't work out. Well, we're pushing the boundaries. So what? It doesn't work out. So what? So the mistakes are part of the journey, and they should be embraced.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us. This is amazing. We are so excited to see what's next in store for you. And I, again, obviously love the clothes. So.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
Okay, bye-bye.